I think there's nothing to talk about. Like, P. Diddy's done for. We're never going to see him again. He's in some non-jurisdicted country where he's not going to get arrested. And, yeah.
Hey guys, this is Elijah Vargas from the Goalswell Podcast. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Eric. I attend Creighton University, and I'm from the suburbs of Chicago.
Oh yeah, me too, bro. So now that summer's rolling around and it's pretty close, what do you think you're going to be doing this summer?
I'm going to be focused a lot on working. I work at a car dealership in my town, so that's going to be my main focus, just try and make some of the money back that I spent this semester.
That's sick, bro. Like, what is your position there?
I'm a porter, so I just drive cars around and
Dude, that's
trades
probably
and
the
stuff,
coolest job you could have there, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Like, what's the coolest car you've gotten to drive?
I really like driving. We got a couple Corvette C6s. Those were fun to drive. And we got a Cadillac ATS-V, which is a very rare car, and that was fun to drive. But other than that, I really like driving the manual Miatas. Since it's a Mazda dealership, you can go whip them around whenever you want. So that's
Dude,
pretty
that's
fun.
so cool.
Yeah.
Bro, that's a sick job, yo. So what do you think your goal is going to be for this summer, aside from, like, getting money?
I'm going to try and join either a mixed martial arts gym or a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym and just try to learn. I'm just trying to get better at MMA, so.
Yeah. No, that's valid, because, like, I see you a lot, like, during the week trying to get some, like, reps in the gym, trying to spar with, like, your friends, hit the bag.
I mean, the thing is as much sparring and as much, like, getting bag work in, like, you could do it all you want, but until someone that actually knows what they're doing is, like, giving you advice, you're not going to progress or get better. So just getting some professional advice would be nice. Yeah,
no, that's definitely facts. Yesterday I was sparring with Logan, and I don't know if you know Micah, but Micah came in, and he was showing, like, he was holding, like, pads for us, because I hadn't done, like, pads in a long time, and dude, he holds them so well. Like, he tells you, like, what to work on and all that, and I'm like, yo, like, this is crazy. this is exactly what I need, because my boxing ain't all that. So, like, it's pretty good. Like,
I met Micah in the gym last semester, actually, when I was just starting to get into it, and he held pads for me, and it was just super helpful. I just, like, he fixed everything that was wrong with, like, my 1, 2, 3, 4, and now it's just mint. So
yeah. I definitely got to get, like, that, like you mentioned, like, the number thing down, because a lot of times I just be throwing shit and, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, like, I got to think about it. But, like, once I get that like, pattern down, then I know what I'm doing, Yeah. I love that. But, so I want to get into your background a little bit. I know, like, if whoever's watching this, like, if you watched, like, any episode before, we get into the person's background so you guys can know, like, who they are and, like, where they came from, why I'm talking to them and all that. So where did you grow up?
What was that? Where did I grow up?
Yep.
I grew up in the town I still live in, Downers Grove, and I went to middle school at a Catholic. It was a K-8 school called St. Joe's. I wasn't really a fan of it, so I picked public high school when I went over there, and I just went to our North Public High School. It was a lot of fun, honestly. But yeah, honestly, just, like, grew up in the suburbs. Nothing interesting really ever happened in my in my town. But actually, I wanted to talk about that. I feel like when you grow up in the suburbs and, like, everything's kind of handed to you, you miss out on a lot of, like, challenging yourself,
Yeah, there's not as much adversity.
Yeah, I feel like you're not set up to go to college, or you're not set up to, like, experience the real world, because you haven't worked a real hard job. Like, your grades were just handed to you in high school, and then
that's facts.
You get here and you're like, oh my god, I actually have to do things to survive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That's part of the reason I got into MMA, is just, like, trying to challenge myself, trying to, like, increase my mental toughness, and so.
Yeah, no, I like that. I've talked about that kind of stuff, like, over and over again on my podcast, about how we always hear stories of, like, especially, like, rappers or other people, they grow up in, like, the hardest situations, and that's why they're able to pull through. and like they face that adversity and become like super successful and famous. I think people from like the middle class, they definitely struggle with that a lot more because they don't have like the motivations that other people do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I feel like when you have nothing, there's always something to work towards, but when you have everything that you could want, you have no motivation, you know. It's like I could drop out of college right now and I could just use my parents' money and just live the rest of my life, but then you kind of have to ask yourself, like, why am I basing my whole life around materialism, you know? Like, oh, I want to live in this house and buy this car. You know, you gotta think that your life has a deeper meaning than that, and you need to like find your passion and pursue that.
Yeah,
I think that's an important thing that kids from the suburbs should definitely hear more often.
I definitely agree, because a lot of people, like, they get real comfortable and then they don't feel the urge to like try to move up. But I think if you want to have like a bright future, you have to have that, because like if you want kids and you're still living with your parents, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be rough. There's like 3 generations in one household.
Yeah, or if you're like 30 something and you're trying to bring a lady home and you bring her back to your parents' house, it's probably not gonna look the best.
It's embarrassing. I mean, I'm not dissing anybody that does that, but like, just saying. So how would you describe like growing up? Would you say, like, you're saying that like when you were younger, you know, you kind of, I don't want to say you had stuff handed to you, but you grew up in the suburbs, so.
Yeah, I mean, I tried my hardest to make it like a difficult experience, but in middle school, I got bullied a lot, so I was just trying to get out of there, and honestly, like, it's all mentally blocked from my brain. I don't even know how that happens, but then I went on to high school, and I didn't really do much. I didn't get into a sport or anything, and I would just like play video games all day and do homework, and so I was 6 foot at like about 120 pounds, which is like
pretty
extremely unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, because everybody convinces you that like being skinny is the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But I was like extremely malnourished, and one day I just woke up and I went to stretch, and I just blacked out, fell on my face, and I like woke up to my dad like trying to wake me up, and we went to the hospital, and I was just like extremely iron deficient, low on protein, everything, and that kind of just convinced me to turn my life around. And I asked my buddy Paco, he was like my gym guy, like he told me everything I know about the gym to this day, and he was like, dude, you just gotta eat a lot, like just eat a lot. And I was like, I don't know how to. And so I started just like force feeding myself every day, and within like 6 months I made it up to 180, and then was just able to maintain that weight. So that was like the first major roadblock I had growing up, I would say. And then I got into this like pretty long-term relationship with my now ex-girlfriend, and her dad owned a painting company in our town, and I just took a summer and just worked full-time at that painting company with like, you know, when you're working with painters and like drywallers, like these are people who are either they just got in the U.S. from Mexico, or they're addicted to heroin or crack or something. And I mean, like, just working full-time really hard around those people was just like really eye-opening to like what's actually going on in the world. Because, you know, like, you go to a high school in the suburbs and like you meet a diverse amount of people, but nobody's actually struggling, you know, like all their parents made it and they're helping them like get through life. And then you meet people who didn't have that opportunity, and I think it gives you more respect. Like, I feel like a mindset you form when you grow up around that mentality is like, oh, homeless people are useless, you know, we got to get them out of here. And then you realize like some of my coworkers are homeless, you know, and they're just trying to make up enough money to get a down payment on an apartment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was really hard work, and it got me in shape, which was really nice. And I mean, just listening to their stories and having that experience was just awesome for me. And then summer after that, I got the job at the car dealership, which has been smooth sailing since. So.
Yeah, that's really cool though. I know, like, doing painting and stuff, that's pretty hard on like your shoulders and stuff, you know what I mean? But yeah, it definitely is good exercise.
Yeah.
So.
and it's a little scary going up on like a 50-foot ladder. The only thing holding you up is like the trust in these Mexican dudes that told you you'll be fine when you go up there. So,
what kind of painting was it? Was it like
exterior houses?
Oh,
yeah.
Exterior. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I was thinking interior.
Yeah, I mean we did some interior jobs, but we were mostly exterior.
Interesting. Okay. So now that we kind of moved into like your high school years and like the jobs that you had in school, like what kind of sports or activities were you involved in?
So I never played a sport in high school, which to this day I regret extremely. I feel like having a team or a coach would have helped me develop a lot more. I did do a studio art club, and I was the president of that, so I would organize, like, we would take all of the top art pieces from the students that semester and we would put it into like a calendar and an art book, and we would sell it for charity. But other than that, I was really into the online culture, so I had like a pretty big friend group on Discord, and I was big on Valorant and building computers, and just like, I don't know, I was a big techie when I was in high school, which there wasn't really a club for or anything at the time, so it was just kind of find your own.
Yeah, no, that's cool though. You've got a lot of like marketable skills because you know how to paint. You're a techie. You're into building computers apparently too. Dude, that's crazy. And also working at a car dealership.
Yeah.
That's all like really good experience.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like your favorite high school memory?
Probably prom. I know it's like the end of high school, but it was so fun. You know, we went to the dance, and then we went up to my buddy has like this rehabbed lake house that's just like, it's pretty disgusting, you know, like it's moldy and everything. And we crammed like 25 of us into this lake house, and it was just like a 4-day bender, and it was just the most fun I've ever had in my life.
That's wild, bro. Damn, 4 days is crazy. Yo. But yeah, I don't think my prom wasn't that crazy. Like, I just really hung out with like a few of my friends, and then like, you know, like the mosh pit and all that. But
yeah, I mean my friend group kind of they had all been friends from middle school, and they went to public middle schools, and so they just kind of adopted me like after we started reacclimating, like after COVID was kind of loosening up. Like, I just met them during gym class, and they just kind of took me in, and so I don't really know the extended friend group like that, so they were just seeing like the worst side of me those nights, and it was pretty funny. So I definitely have a interesting reputation back home now.
No, but bro, that's the best, getting to be able to a group of friends to like accept you in. Even though you didn't have that extended history with them, that's really cool. Good for you, bro. So how many people from your high school decided to go to Creighton, or were you the only one?
It's 3 of us, so it's me, this girl Claire Pine, she's on the cross country team for the girls, and then,
I think I know her.
This other girl, I think her name is Anna. I don't know, I saw her on like the committed page, but I haven't seen her here or ever. I never talked to her in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's 3 of us from an 800 kid class. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good percentage.
That's crazy, because like for me, I think our class was about the same size, and I'm the only one. So
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like certain schools have like, I don't know if you guys have like legacy or something, but certain schools like send a few kids over.
For sure. I don't know if Downers Grove North had any legacy with Creighton. I think like I don't know if this is true, but from what I can remember, I think like at least 25% went to Indiana, and a good chunk went to UIC.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just like everybody wants to go to those schools, you know. It's like you get to have parties, school is pretty easy and all that. And I kind of regret going to Creighton, and I wish I had that life right now, but I do like how Creighton kind of challenges you and like sets a higher level of expectation. I just wish PubSafe wasn't as outrageous as they are. That's probably my only real complaint.
I saw them I saw them yesterday. I don't know what was going on. It was like in the middle of the day, and I saw them come in. One of them had, what do you call that? Like I don't know. What
To
that
hear the heartbeat?
Yeah, that.
Stethoscope.
Yeah. I saw one of them like with the stethoscope, and they were like rushing through the hallway.
Yeah.
I was like, someone hurt?
They have like a med team too.
Yeah.
Which it's nice, like knowing you have that security, but at the same time we live a block from a hospital, so it's like.
Yeah, that's true. That's facts.
But yeah, I think like some of their rules about like drinking and I don't know, stuff like that. It's just, I think it's a little too much, because I feel like every college has accepted like these kids are gonna drink, like they're adults, they're coming to college, they're gonna have parties, they're gonna have fun, and like Creighton just hasn't accepted that yet. I don't know why. And I don't know. I personally feel like the drinking age should be lowered in the U.S. because I think it's crazy that you can get drafted into war and die for your country without having a legal drink in your country, or without like smoking legal weed in your country. Like, that's just so insane to me that you can literally put your life on the line to protect people of the country, but you can't have experienced things that people who are 3 years older than you are getting to experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like looking around, I think everybody already.
Yeah, everybody already experiences.
I don't think
it
like
for
the
sure.
law would make that much of a difference, honestly. Like people already have access to it. But yeah, it's the same thing with like, like voting and getting drafted. It's like 18, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of those are at 18 except for alcohol, smoking, and what's the other one? Nicotine, yeah. It's all 21, so.
Yeah, at least I know in Illinois, it changed to 21 while we were in our freshman year of high school. I don't know if you remember that law change, but it was 18, and then it was actually from like the vaping. I would call it an epidemic, but like all the kids vaping, they were like, we got to do something about this, so they changed it to 21, so kids couldn't get it in high school anymore. So that's just for nicotine, and I think weed is 18 in Illinois now, but nicotine and alcohol are 21 in Illinois, as well as here, unless you want to buy the weird weed that they chemically formulate or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not all that knowledgeable about like any of that, but I'm not saying that like you're like a expert or anything, but I literally don't know anything. I actually don't know anything about that at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't like vaping and like the wax carts for weed and everything. That's such a horrible thing, especially for like kids. Like you're just spamming that stuff in your brain while you're trying to develop, and I don't know. It's like, I feel like parents could do a better job, especially like in the suburbs, because there's kind of that mentality where it's like, oh, they're gonna do it anyways. I don't care.
Oh yeah,
so,
no, that's you hear that all the time.
Yeah, it's like I could take it away. They're just gonna go buy another one. It's like $5, So.
Especially like it feels like they market a lot of that stuff to kids because they make it like flavored a certain way, make it smell good, and like all that,
And there were lawsuits against that, and then the two brothers who owned Juul, like the original one that was getting sued. Yeah. Some big tobacco company bought out Juul from them for like $1 billion or something, just some crazy price, and you just never heard anything about it since.
Dang.
There's definitely some lobbying going on there.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
You ever seen South Park?
I have. Yeah.
That reminds me of like the episode where I don't know if he was starting like his weed business, but like that the guy in the suit shows up, and he's like supposed to represent like the big vape company, and he's like, get those out of here, those are electronic, those are bullshit. Trying to say like the people that smoke that is like weak or whatever. Yeah. Dude, no, Stan is like, or not Stan, what's his name? The dad.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen.
I forgot his name, but he's so funny.
Yeah.
That guy's like out of control all the time.
That was definitely like I never got into vaping because my brothers would always tell me, they'd be like, Eric, never hit a vape, like never buy a vape. Vaping is gay, like that's what they would always tell me. And I'd be like, guys, you can't say that. And they just keep telling me like, dude, don't do it. Vape is gay. And then like that was just ingrained in my brain. And like I hit one once in like 8th grade, and then ever since then I just think it's disgusting. And then I find out that both of them are like severely addicted to vaping, which is like hilarious.
They're trying to protect you. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, so I want to get a little bit back on some of these questions. So now that you're at Creighton, I know that you mentioned that you can appreciate the challenge and like the struggle at Creighton, like the difficulty level. So what do you like about Creighton?
I do appreciate that difficulty level and kind of challenging myself to get through these courses and like not make excuses for myself. I also like the campus is just really nice. Like everything's modernized and taken care of. And there's always
except for like the art side.
Yeah. The arts and sciences side might be a little outdated. Maybe a little asbestos is going on. And whatnot, but it's nice, you know, seeing like there's always somebody keeping it clean and a lot of amenities and facilities that you can use. I really appreciate like the help centers and the free tutoring, like that's stuff that you wouldn't find somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, that you shouldn't take for granted for sure. And I don't know. That's about what I like here. I like the friends that I met too, but that's just gonna happen anywhere, you know.
Yeah, me too, dude. Like I think the size is like perfect for me because I don't need like a bike. I don't need a car.
Yeah. I
don't need anything like that. I just need 2 legs.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's also like the campus is beautiful. Like sometimes I just like walking around at night.
Yeah.
And like looking around, and I'm like, yo, I didn't know that lit up. Well, that's crazy. Even just going into Omaha, like going into the city, looking at like the pedestrian bridge, or going into like the Jean Lay Mall, like all of that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, I feel like if you go west, you know, you see some cool stuff, and then you start like getting into like North O, and you're like, okay, maybe I don't belong here.
You gotta turn around.
Yeah, there's definitely like. Chicago's the same, you know, there's good parts and there's bad parts, but I feel like we're a lot closer to some of the bad parts, especially around like this side of campus. But yeah, I don't know, I just like, that's my biggest complaint is I don't feel very safe in this city. I almost feel like I'm more safe in Chicago. Like I've never seen, I would go on record saying that I've never seen an Omaha police officer. Like, I've seen pub safe and stuff, but I don't think I've ever seen an Omaha police officer. And, like, you go to Chicago, like, there's CPD everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's actually an interesting take, because I feel way safer here.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like, dude, I've gone on walks into the city at, like, 10 p.m. Nothing happens. I'm like, yo, if this were Chicago, like, it could be crazy.
Yeah,
I don't feel safe walking at night in Chicago, but that just could be the way that I was raised. I'm not sure.
I think it's like, I definitely have that street smart when I'm walking around in Chicago, but it's just like, it could be 10 p.m. on a Thursday and there's still like 100 people on this one block.
Yeah,
you know?
Isn't that interesting?
That makes me feel safer, you know, just being around all these people. But then you go to Omaha and it's like, you're walking, like, let's say you walk into the city at 10 p.m. or whatever, around that. It could even be like a Friday night and there's just nobody. I just think that's the most eerie, the most unsafe feeling in the world.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Because it's like somebody could run up on me right now and there would be no witnesses.
That's, I never thought about it that way. That actually is kind of scary.
That's the way I think of it.
Because I see it as like, there's no one here. I'm completely safe. You see it as like, there's no one here. There's no witnesses.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is scary. At least I know like some MMA, so if that helps at all.
Yeah, I have a buddy back home that teaches Taekwondo. He's a black belt, and he was showing me some stuff one day, and I was like, what's the one move or takedown that you would teach somebody, like, if they only had this one move that would protect them the most? And he just looks at me and he just goes, you just gotta buy a gun, man. Like, you could learn as much Taekwondo, as much MMA as you want, but someone takes 2 steps back and they pull a gun on you, then you're just dead.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's crazy. I mean, guns are horrible. It's just like a crazy thing that exists, you know?
Yeah, but like if somebody else has one, I'd rather have one.
Yeah, I know. I mean?
I'm not saying that I got one, but I'm not.
I'm definitely a big believer in, if the bad guys have guns and the good guys have guns, the good guys are coming out victorious, you know?
Yeah, like I'd rather have like more people have guns. It's kind of like, you know, like kung fu movies, like how everyone knows kung fu for no reason.
Yeah.
They're less likely to like fight each other just because they know like they could get fucked up by like the next person on the street.
Yeah.
I think it's the same kind of thing with
it's the same concept, yeah.
With like guns, because that was a terrible analogy, but
that's a really good analogy.
You know what I mean? So like if you knew that like everyone you know knew how to fight or knew like MMA or something, you're less likely to start a fight with them just because you know like it's not gonna end well.
Yeah, so we did a road trip. I like learned that very young. We did a road trip to Yellowstone, and we stopped at this restaurant because my parents really wanted me to try like a bison burger because I'd never eaten bison before. And so like we're talking to the waiter. Our waiter's like this retired like 50-something-year-old guy that's just like having fun, you know, running a restaurant and whatnot. And we're talking about like the gun laws because my dad's like he's big into guns. He has shotguns and pistols and everything. He goes to the range, and the guy's like, yeah, I mean, you definitely feel a little unsafe knowing that, you know, this guy could have a gun and what if he road rages at me and whatnot. And he's like, but at the same time, you could have a gun too because it's legal here, you know. So nobody's gonna try you, nobody's gonna test you.
Yeah, see, that's exactly it.
He was like, the violence rates here are like way lower than anywhere else. Obviously, like being a lower population, it's a hard distinction to make, but at the same time, like that mentality I think it's a good mentality to have. It's like, I'm not gonna pull a gun on this guy because he might have one too.
Yeah, but then there's always like the argument that like, you know, people that have like mental disabilities, and if they have guns, then they might not make that distinction and just pull it out at like whenever.
Yeah. So
I definitely see like that argument, but for me, like I'd rather be able to protect myself. You know? So
for sure.
Like, that's how I view it.
So the way in Illinois, the way it works is like, the second you turn 16 and you have a driver's license, you can get a Floyd card, and it's like completely free. You just put your name in and they ship you the Floyd card, and that means that you can own a gun and you can have it at your house and you can drive it to the range. But to carry a gun with you, like in public, you need a concealed carry license, which my dad just recently did. It's like about a year of classes and then another year of waiting, and then if it doesn't work the first time, then it's another year of waiting, you know?
Oh,
it's like,
shoot.
It's just a ton of like background checks and stuff with the NRA that like, I think it's good, you know? It's like,
yeah, that sounds very reassuring.
It's making sure that guns aren't getting into concealed carried guns aren't getting into the wrong hands of people. And like my dad said, like they really stress it into your head during the classes that like pulling a gun is the last opportunity. Like your life is at risk.
Yeah, like last resort.
And so like they really test your mental toughness with that. And like if you're not playing the game, like you're out. You're not getting a concealed carry license. So I think it's really nice that they're teaching people like not to let their anger get the best of them, and but at the same time, it's kind of crazy that you have to wait like upwards of 3 years to get a concealed carry license if you just want to protect yourself.
Yeah, so. Yeah, no. Looking at it from that view, that makes that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely like over this. I had wanted to, because I heard that there was like a range here. I'd wanted to go like over spring break, both breaks actually. I had wanted to go. I never got the chance. Because, I mean, it's kind of far. I don't know if you've been to the one over here.
Oh, I haven't, no.
There's a few. I'd wanted to go, but it was kind of far. Maybe over the summer I might try to go to one. Have you gone to a range before?
Yeah, I could take you to one this summer. It's called Range on 355. It's like just right. You just take 355 and you just take an exit, and it's right there in like the middle of a cornfield.
Yo, that's sick.
Yeah.
It's I'm totally
really
down.
fun. Yeah, you can rent guns, or you can like bring your own guns and buy ammo there. But it's just like it's a good time. Everybody there is super nice, and it's a fun time.
Yeah, that's sick. No, I'm totally down. My parents are not actually for guns, so it take a little convincing. But they know, like with my career path, it's kind of like expected. So like, I want to move into like. I want to skip a few of these just because time, and I don't think it's really all that important. I want to ask you like I want to get into like your future, like what you're planning for the future, where you see yourself. So where do you think you would see yourself like in the future, career wise or like life wise?
So I always wanted to become a mechanic and like open up a little shop somewhere and just like work on cars for the rest of my life, but it's kind of useless to go to college and get a degree and then go do that because you kind of just spent all that money on a degree for no reason. So I'm probably gonna find like a business job that fits my degree and my experience, and that I can go make a little bit of like money, you know, get an actual like six-figure salary for a little bit, and then just save up, and then once I've saved up enough, you know, I can move and live my dream of just like opening up like a fabrication shop, and I think that would be pretty fun. Although that like desk job culture is just not for me, so it's gonna be tough.
I hear that over and over again, you know.
I do not want to sit there and fill out spreadsheets for God knows how many years, but you got to do what you got to do to make money, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. Like a Dom Toretto kind of life you want, right?
Yeah, just like, I don't know, I mean, you make enough money from doing fabrication, you know, only so many people in a town know how to weld or know how to make a custom exhaust and whatnot, so you'd still make good money from it for sure, but it's just not an easy six-figure salary. You have to work for it, but, you know, if you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. That's what they always say. So I think it would be good for me.
Yeah. In my opinion, I always hear that saying, and I'm like, no, I'm going to work, like, way harder because I'm going to want it more, you know what I mean? Like with this podcast, it may seem like I'm not doing, like, I mean, it kind of looks like I'm just doing what I want to do, you know what I mean? But, like, that is true, but, like, it takes a lot of work, too.
Yeah.
Because I have to upload clips everywhere. I have to setting this up takes a little bit, and editing takes a while, and like I'm doing everything for it. So, but it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, I definitely agree that like it can like what was the phrase?
Oh, what that you if you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life, right?
Yeah. It may not feel like work, but it's still work.
You're doing work for sure. And the thing about podcasting and I experienced something similar when I got into like building computers and stuff, is it started as like almost a hobbyist activity. Like building computers was always like, oh, why don't you just go buy the Dell that they have at Costco or whatever? And then it was like, no, I want to build this sick rig with water cooling and all this. And then it just kind of came like, okay, now everybody wants a water-cooled gaming PC that can play Valorant at 600 frames per second and whatnot, you know? And so then it kind of became monetizable, and now you can make money from it. But at the end of the day, it's still just like, at its core, it's like, it's hobbyist, like, you know, like, this is cool, this is what people like doing.
Yeah.
And I think podcasts are very similar, you know? It started like, who's got the best audio rig? Like, oh, your podcast setup is sweet, like, that's awesome, and it was very hobbyist, and then people started, like, actually listening, and I think that, like, made it more monetizable, and you can see it as a career path now.
Yeah, no, that's definitely how I want to approach it. It's going to take a while to get monetized because everything's, like, follower based.
Yeah.
I think I have enough views to do it. I just don't have enough like followers.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's very hard, yo. Like it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to push people to like subscribe and everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like when you're scrolling on your phone, there's a million content creators, especially with like the introduction of TikTok and YouTube Shorts, you know.
Yeah.
You see so many things in one day that like something's really got to stick out to you for you to go out of your way and like go to their YouTube channel and watch some long form content.
Yeah. No, it's always a commitment for me. Like trying to watch like a hour-long podcast.
Yeah.
I know I've done it with a few. Like if I see Joe Rogan just released a new episode and it's somebody that I like if it's Bobby Lee or if it's Theo Vaughn, I'm gonna go watch that because those are really interesting. Those are funny people, you know. Or if it's like, I know I just finished this podcast. Do you know Patrick Bet-David?
I don't.
He's huge in the podcast world. He just interviewed Suge Knight, like over phone call, and it was like an hour-long podcast, and it was like, dude, this is crazy. I don't think I've ever I know who Suge Knight is, and like a lot of people know who Suge Knight is, but having the opportunity to sit down with him and get his opinion on stuff is so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't want to commit to listening to a podcast or watching a long YouTube video because they have this thought like, oh, it's taking up so much of my day. You know, like that's an hour of my day that I won't get back. But then it's like you should ask those people like, let me see your screen time. Guarantee you spent like 3 hours on TikTok today.
Yeah.
Like what did you get from that experience, like those 3 hours on TikTok that's like fueling you or like driving you to do something that you like? Like I don't know, I hate TikTok. I think it's just like it's just brain rot.
Yeah.
It's just sending us all into dopamine recession, you know.
Okay, I got 2 things to add on to that. With podcasts, like I look at it as like educational. A lot of it can be educational. You can learn a lot from it. And there's also the part where like you can, while you're listening, you can be like working out, you could be going for a run, you could be driving, you could be doing like all this other stuff. So it doesn't have to be it doesn't feel like a commitment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just in the background.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask is, this is kind of, hopefully this will throw us into a deeper conversation, but as you most likely know, there's a TikTok ban that's going to happen, and I just heard you say that you hate TikTok. So I want to ask, like, what's your opinion on this ban? What do you think?
I do think the ban is stupid. I think it's a clear violation of our, I should know what amendment it is, right? First Amendment, free speech. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's crazy. I think the government shouldn't be that comfortable taking a media source away from us, you know? I've like written multiple papers in high school and college on how TikTok is creating like a social divide between Republicans and Democrats, and it's kind of undereducating people on the deeper meaning of like your political beliefs. But at the end of the day, like it's an app on your phone that Americans should have access to, and taking it away is just violating our First Amendment of free speech. And I don't know, that's my opinion on why I think it's outrageous, because their information grabbing take that they have during the lawsuit and everything, I don't know if you've watched any of it.
A little bit. I've seen clips.
I mean, it's the same kind of questions that you could ask X or you could ask YouTube. Like, everybody's selling information.
Yeah.
You're not only getting TikTok on this, and it's like, if you're going to take that away, what's stopping them from taking away another app that we love, you know, or something like that. So as much as I hate it, I think it's crazy that they're getting rid of it. I think not enough people are talking about it, and I don't know. I know it's already banned in a couple states. Like, you can't download it in Montana. But
that's crazy. Yeah. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, I mean, if you had it on your phone already, you can use it, but like, there's no more downloading TikTok.
That doesn't stop anything.
Although I'm pretty sure you could just like turn a VPN on and just change your state.
Dude, that's crazy.
Download it, if I'm not mistaken. But not giving anybody ideas to get around the laws.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, I'm just talking from personal experience. I hate TikTok just because I feel like Insta Reels is taking over low key.
Insta Reels is funnier for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely crazier. But I hate TikTok because they take down so many of my videos or they mute them, and it's so annoying. But at the same time, I know that if this podcast blows up, it's gonna be from TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, it's the number one. Like, everyone blows up on TikTok.
Well, TikTok is like a vicious battle to become famous on because you're competing with actually billions of people. Like, I mean, what percentage of the world is on TikTok right now? I'd love to know that because I know
Let me look it up. I'm curious.
Like my grandma's on TikTok. Like you don't stuff you don't even expect. So I mean like, getting a following from TikTok is definitely more difficult than any other social media platform.
It says there are 4.8 billion internet users in the world, and 20.83 of them use TikTok. To go further, blah, 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 blah. This is from searchlogistics.com. So I think that's pretty crazy. Like, I know it seems like that. Like, there's a lot of people, and that's probably just because of the country that we're in.
Yeah.
So I know, like, I've seen a few of my uncles have TikTok, and, like, even at my work, like, my coworker, he paints for the school district. He has TikTok, and he's, like, almost, I don't want to say he's too old. He's got to be, like, I'm gonna give him 50. He's like 50.
No, my Mexican buddies, I mean, they were all, like minimum, like, 36. And they all had TikTok, and like when it was on break, they were just like spamming through TikTok.
Yeah, and it's so great. It's cool to see like their algorithm.
Yeah, it's so different. Funny. Yeah,
it's so different. It's nothing like like mine is a lot of just like brain rot stuff mixed with like some religious stuff mixed with like some gym stuff, and it's so weird. Like I have a weird.
Yeah, so I gave TikTok and Instagram up for Lent, so I had like a pretty huge detox off of that stuff, and when I got back on, like I just got back into Brawl Stars, so now it's just like I go on and like look up whatever the best Brawl Stars build is, and it's just like some random Mexican dude like telling me whatever the best Lenny and Lori build is. I don't know, it's so funny. I think like all of Brawl Stars player base is Mexican because like when you look up Brawl Stars on TikTok, the first 20% of videos you'll see are in Spanish. And it's just I don't know, it's so they love that shit. They love it.
Yeah, I know back home it was pretty big. Like, a lot of my friends were playing that. That and, like, Clash Royale and shit.
Yeah, Clash Royale was super fun, for sure.
Especially in high school. Like, everyone was playing it, I swear.
So we weren't allowed to have phones in middle school. Like, we couldn't have them in the room or anything.
Yeah.
And we had this science teacher, Mrs. Stepniewski, and she wouldn't really pay attention to, like, the back row, you know? And so, like, if you got in the back row, like we would have a rotation, like it was your day to play mobile Fortnite or play Brawl Stars or Clash Royale or whatever, and we had this kid, Ryan Porcelli, he would like take all of his used iPhone 6s, like because he had a huge family, and so they would just save up all the phones that they haven't turned in yet. He would charge them up and bring them all to school, and then we would run like crazy games in the back of class.
That's crazy.
And that was a super fun experience for sure. But,
dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, that kind of technology is definitely, I feel like, declining the average IQ of Americans.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It's hard to pay attention when, like, you want to be focused on something that's, like, exploding your dopamine receptors, you know?
I'm doing a project for one of my classes on media consumption, like, in, like, our day and age or whatever, and actually, I want to look this up just to make sure. I know I have it on like one of my slides for this presentation, but there's a really like high percentage of people that use. Is this a slide? There's like a really high percentage of people that use TikTok as like their main form of news.
Oh yeah.
And I find that just crazy because if you look at like past generations, it's normally like they use mainstream media, you know, like NBC, CBS, like all of that. Yeah. But nowadays it's like TikTok, Instagram. You look at like rap. Like one of my friends uses, Cam uses rap.
Rap is a crazy pick for your form of media.
If you're at Creighton, some kids straight up use Fizz as their form of news, and it's like so crazy. But yeah, I think like everything's changing. And if they get rid of TikTok, what is it going to be? Just Instagram? I mean, people are just going to make the switch to just Instagram.
The thing is, with news, you can't even trust the TV programs anymore.
Yeah,
and
that's facts.
You can't trust social media because everybody is trying to be entertaining. They're trying to get you. They're seeing what can I say or what can I do that will keep this person swiping on this app. So they're either going to try and make you really happy or really mad. It's one of the two. There's no in between,
Yeah.
So they'll be like, Trump is banning abortion and this girl just got raped and blah, 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 and she's going to have to go 2 states over. And you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. And then you scroll the next thing and you see something like even worse than that. And it's just like that repetitiveness of like making you hate and resent the other side. I think that's like going to be the downfall of our current political system. And it's wrong. It really is wrong. Like, we shouldn't be so divided in a country where we're all living together in harmony and like free with each other.
It's all like that us them mentality, like the separation,
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, I don't want to say that it's the same thing, but like if you look at like Nazi Germany, they were doing that with the Jews. They were like saying us and them, like we're different. They caused all the problems, and we're the ones that are suffering from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you see that like except on both sides for us, because we see that with like the Democrats, or the Democrats see that with the Republicans, and it's all like back and forth, so everyone's divided.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're all going to have different beliefs, and it's about finding a set of candidates that can please one side's beliefs while still maintaining a decent quality of life for the other side.
Yeah.
And I think what we're doing right now is the exact opposite of that. I think we're making people think like the world's gonna end if your candidate doesn't win,
Yeah.
And a lot of that is to blame on social media, because like I remember when Trump was president and like my life didn't change,
Yeah, that's
like,
facts.
I remember when like
The only thing that changed was when COVID hit.
yeah, like when Obama was president, like that didn't affect my life at all. And I mean, sure, you see it around you, like, oh, food stamps are more available. You see more people using stuff like that. But like at the same time, it's like just let the people who need help get the help that they need, and then you can like figure out your own beliefs in your own way. I don't know. It's just like I just don't think we should be so divided over it.
Yeah, and there's also the thing that like if you talk to like any older person, they'll be like, oh, you should focus more on like your state government or like your local government than yours.
Yeah.
And they're right, because why are we becoming so divided over our like national government when it barely affects us?
Yeah.
I mean, TikTok ban will affect us, but aside from that, like most decisions that they make won't affect us at all.
Yeah.
It's like the
and
state.
Most of those big decisions you hear in the news, like they're not going to make it past the Senate, or like, they're not going to make it past, like, we have checks and balances that like don't let the president get egotistical and don't let the president do insane things. And so you're exactly right when you say you should focus on your state government, because like when it comes down to it during midterms, like we're voting these representatives in, right? Like it's up to us, it's up to the younger generation. And like after you vote those representatives in, it just goes up the ladder. Like you vote for a guy you like, he votes for a guy he likes, and then it goes up the ladder until you're all the way up at the top. And like that's how you really change the system. Is you get people in low. Like I feel like people think the president has control over you, but that's not true. Like you have control over the president. Like the way the system is made, it's down to up. It's not up to them.
It's so crazy. I was thinking about that, because you know how people talk about like wolves and sheep, and like how at the top like there's wolves and then we're all just sheep and we're all like just following them. But if you think about it, they're also sheep.
Yeah.
Because they have to follow. It's a quote unquote democracy.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but if it's operating the right way, they should be following what we tell them to do because they're our representatives.
And that's why it's getting extreme, because they're like on the Democratic side, they're getting really extreme on what they're saying, because if they want the vote, they need to check every box, you know? It's like, for all we know, like, Joe Biden could like hate trans people and like love guns, but at the end of the day, if he wants to become president, he has to say that he loves trans people and he's going to ban guns from every state in the country. And it's just like, it's empty promises like that to get votes that I think are ruining democracy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I want to take it like a step deeper. I think like most things are very like systemic. Like the problems that we have are very systemic. It's not just like Biden's fault. It's not just like this person's fault. It's normally like it's the system's fault, basically. Like the system is set up that way. I look at it like the education system's flawed. The music system's flawed. Like the law system is flawed. Like all these things it's all like a systemic problem. Everything's a systemic problem.
Yeah, it's definitely rooted deeper than the surface level things that we hear or we vote for, because like, let's say gun violence, like it all trails down to like, I don't want to say like mafia or gangs are buying up tons of guns from like third world countries, and then if we ban guns, then the good guys can't have legal guns, and then the bad guys have illegal guns.
Yeah,
that's just like, then we lose.
Exactly.
You know? It's like, so I mean, it's stuff like that, like, because you think you're like, oh, guns are illegal, we're safe.
Yeah.
But you need to think about it systemically, like, what would really happen if we did that?
You would have to fix the whole system, and that's the way that I look at it. Like, if you want, think of an example like education, which is like an example I always think about. If you want to fix education, you don't just pour money into it. You need to fix the whole system. You got to revamp the entire system. It's not like surface level, and I think it's the same thing with guns too. Because if you just pass this law saying, no more concealed carry, does that fix anything?
Yeah.
That's not changing the system.
Yeah,
you
because
have to change the system.
The people committing violent crimes with guns don't have a concealed carry license, like 99% of the time.
That's the point.
So it's like what I thought was really stupid was like getting rid of fully automatic. Like, what? Like a fully automatic gun is going to do less damage than somebody shooting you with like a birdshot shotgun that just mutilate you. You know, I mean, it's just like people that have no idea what they're talking about making laws to please people who have no idea what they're talking about. I mean, it's just it's a whole lot of that.
I think the thing is, with government, they just do what people like to hear.
Yeah.
And they don't like want to revamp like the entire system and say, like, look at all like everything. We just created a new system and this one's gonna work. I think like every system's flawed.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Especially I like the education example, because a lot of it is like zoning. So it's like, Downers Grove education is going to be great because we have really high income, like generally, which leads to really high property tax income, which leads to more money going to our school. But then you think of a place like I don't know, South Chicago, where like the mean income is extremely low, or maybe people are living off disability or Section 8, and that feeds directly into their school system. So like, if you want your kids to go to a good school in South Chicago, you're stuck with sending them to a Catholic school that funds itself, you know? And I don't know, so all those kids that like never had a chance, you know, like they grew up with addicted parents or something, you know, like just got sent to a foster home, like they're never going to make it to college. They're going to get stuck in that like gangbanging mentality. Yeah. And I mean, it's just screwing a lot of young kids over that have lots of potential, you know?
Yeah, see, it's not just surface level. Everything's like, it goes way deeper.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like other examples too, because I know guns and education is just two examples, but like if you think about like everything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the biggest example that I say, like, I try not to get all fed up about politics, but like my biggest hatred is Social Security. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. I mean, like, there's a national debt website where you can reallocate the national debt however you want, and you can see if like you can make it positive. And so like you can go down the list and be like, all right, we're cutting education, we're cutting food stamps, you could basically get rid of like half of the national budget, like get rid of military spending, and you still won't have like a dent in the national debt.
Bro.
But the second you get rid of Social Security, like, not even get rid of Social Security, like, all I did to fix it was I changed the retirement age to 60 or like 62 or something, and then I changed the benefit amount to like 60%, and that just cleared the national debt immediately. I mean, it's crazy. I don't even know, like, first of all, it shouldn't be a system at all. Like, instead of promising people money when they're old, you should just show people how to save so that they can just have their own money when they're old instead of using other people's, which they're trying to do by like forcing economics classes in high school and other things along those lines, and like giving financial advice in high school. But I mean, like, until you get rid of that system, like, we're just gonna keep owing people more money, and the national debt is just gonna keep growing exponentially.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I have another thing that like I want to talk about. I know, like, this is very random. I know like a lot of people think about like how much power like the government has and all that, you know. And I remember like this example that Joe Rogan talks about is I don't know if it was Joe Rogan actually. Somebody said that like if you wanted to go live like in the middle of nowhere, like off the grid type, you know what I mean? A lot of people have like that kind of fantasy of living off the grid. You can't really do that now. You can't even like collect water if you wanted to, like rainwater. You can't even do that without permission from the government, which I find is so crazy.
Yeah, everything's kind of owned by somebody, and that's because there's a finite amount of land on the world, so it's easy for someone to claim it.
Yeah.
And it was very early on, like early parts of Europe, early parts of Spain, like all those people just saying like, okay, we're conquering this or whatever, and this is ours now, and now it's worth money. So it's like, it's kind of like, think of now like Bitcoin. Like when Bitcoin first started, you're like, okay, that's not worth anything. You just made this up.
Yeah, and now you're assigning it value.
Yeah, and now it has an actual value to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just what land is. Like, land is finite. I think that's why real estate is such a lucrative business, is because like you can't just make more land. Like, you can make more phones, you can make more like computers, but at the end of the day you can't make more land. So I don't know, I feel like, and as more land fills up with factories and like big apartment complexes, that dream of like one day owning your own home is going to be so out of reach. I mean, I don't think it'll happen in our lifetime, but I think in the future I could definitely see like a dystopian, like
Ready Player One,
yeah,
where
like
they're
Ready
like
Player
stacked
One,
on top of each other.
Yeah,
that was so crazy.
yeah. I mean, it's possible, you know.
Yeah.
There's only so much land in the world.
Yeah, as someone that plays video games, do you think something like Ready Player One is possible, where like stacked up, like people are stacked up on top of each other, and there's like a video game where you can like escape that world?
So I could see, I mean, we already have like VR chat and Rec Room and stuff like that, but
it's still in like its baby stages, though, in my opinion.
I think before something like Ready Player One happens, we would see something more like The Matrix, you know, where like we're put in such a realistic simulation through either a headset or like a neuro lock or something, and then like they're just harnessing our bodies for the energy that they make. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I feel like that's more likely of happening, because like I feel like especially with TikTok and everything, like our generation's dopamine receptors are going to be so fried that like we wouldn't even have the attention span.
Like
we wouldn't have the attention span or like the creativity or the imagination to like experience a world like Ready Player One. Like, we'd be like, oh, I could race this really cool car that would never exist in the real world. I don't really care. I'd rather watch clips of Skibbity Toilet and
Oh my God.
like, you know, like I don't know. I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I think
like,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you seen Black Mirror?
I have. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love Black
So
Mirror.
do you know that episode? I don't know if this is like the best example, but I know that there's this episode where like there's these two ladies that are talking to each other and like at a bar, and then they like find each other later, and then eventually like we find out that like that whole world that they were in was like a simulation, and one of the ladies was like on life support, and she was about to die. And I guess like when people die in like that episode, their consciousness gets transported into like the simulation, and they get to like live out basically eternity in like that version of heaven.
Yeah.
I think that's like I don't know how that would work if that were possible, but
If that were possible, I don't think I would sign up for it.
Yeah.
I think whatever's in store naturally is probably going to be a million times better than anything we can create on Earth, you know?
100% agree. Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Because if you think, like, I think this is where religion gets really interesting. Like, every religion has their own idea of what happens after death, and Rick and Morty says it the best, you know? They're like, trust me, you don't want to die. There's nothing after. It's just blackness, and it's horrible. And, like, it's very possible that that could be true, but at the same time, you know, it's nice having the idea that I could be living in this euphoric world where, like, everything goes the way I want to, or,
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm just comfortable all the time. I mean, that's something to, like, live for, you know? Because if you don't believe in that, what do you have to live for?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Going into like heaven and everything, it's got to be like so. I don't know. When I was younger, I was always kind of afraid of heaven, just because eternity seemed like such a long time. I know that's like
Yeah.
a very profound thing to be thinking
Yeah.
when you're like 6, but I was like, I don't know if I could live that long.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean when you're playing Minecraft on creative mode, and you have basically everything you could ever want.
Yeah.
It's hard to be happy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I won't be happy in heaven if I make it there, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm saying though?
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying about, like, creative, or the same thing could be said about, like, oh, you did a money glitch on GTA.
Yeah,
And you just, like,
that's another
yeah,
one.
and then you bought every car, you bought every condo, and it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to work for. But the way I would think of it is, like, if that really is the case, then whatever God you believe in probably has a way around that, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's through like personal connections with
Yeah.
people. Like when I always pictured like when you make it to heaven, like you're, let's say like one of your lost relatives is there. Like you lost them in your life, but you're gonna see them alive and well.
Yeah.
Or somebody that you never met, like your great grandson's gonna be there, and you can meet him there, and I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. And then on the other end, like hell, I saw a really good depiction of hell in this Netflix show called Lucifer, and basically this guy like did a hit and run with he was a professor, and he hit a student with his car, and she died. And he like did a hit and run, and then he like got caught for it. And when he went to hell, like he was stuck in a loop of that sin that he committed.
Yeah.
And it was just like he was just losing his mind, and it was just the most painful thing for him, because like if you think of it, that would be like, I don't want to say hell is good, but that would be like the perfect hell, is like reliving that experience that you regret the most.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, I know, like, people say, oh, you know, like, hell, there's gonna be, like, fire, and be, like, the devil, and you get, like, stabbed and stuff, or whatever, but, I think some people have definitely, like, mentioned how it's just gonna be whatever you think hell is, that's what hell's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like, when you go there, it's gonna be, like, your worst possible, like, rendition of, an experience will be. So like that person's was that experience of like that sin, and it just repeats over and over for them.
Yeah.
It could be like a Groundhog Day.
Yeah, and oh my God, I just totally lost track of what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, sorry. I think hell is more like, it's like a religious scare tactic almost. You know, it's like you don't want to go here, so follow these rules, and I think you can interpret the rules however you really want to, but at the end of the day, like, the whole point of religion is to practice good morality, and or at least that's what it means to me. And I think like that idea of like, okay, if I don't stick to this promise and if I don't follow this morality, then I'm gonna live a horrible afterlife. And I think it's important to think like that, because people are so quick to judge and so quick to be mean and rude, and it's like, just don't, you know? Just
yeah,
like,
and I think
yeah.
personally, I don't want to make like any like overall like judgments or anything, but a lot of the people that I know that have like stick to their religion seem to be like better people morally than like atheists or like other people. And I'm not saying that like all atheists are bad or all other people are bad, but it's definitely like I can see the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider myself an atheist. Like, I don't. It's very difficult for me to believe that a God exists, just because like it's so improbable. But like, at the same time, I understand the reason the stories in the Bible were created. Like, let's say Jesus never existed or the apostles never existed. Like, those stories were still created for a reason, and it's because like they want to pass down this underlying theme of
Like the lessons.
Yeah, of
yeah,
just like,
no, I've heard that
like
a lot.
be good, like feed the hungry, like be nice, be a good person. And it's just like, if you just follow those rules, your life will just be so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point those stories exist, like, at least in my opinion. And so I mean, like, you don't have to believe in God to be like a good person. It's just like finding your own version of that, you know?
Yeah. We're at an hour right now.
Okay.
And I have a few questions, hopefully. I don't know how much time you have.
I got all day, so I don't.
Oh, okay, bet. These are like similar to like the TikTok one, more like contemporary, questions. Hopefully we can make, I mean, obviously there's a lot of clips I could have made throughout like this whole thing, but these are definitely some good ones. So are you about like the P. Diddy situation?
I'm a little versed on it.
Oh, actually, okay.
Do you know about it?
Yeah, I know like baseline, like probably what most people heard, like about like with Usher and like.
Yeah, so like
everything else.
I think like bottom line is like he was doing some freaky shit with little kids. That's like base, just put it out there. And then after getting investigated, the FBI, I want to say, that's probably who would have done it, right?
Yeah.
The FBI was trying to raid his house, and he paid a bunch of people to basically stand in his driveway and pretend that like it's him trying to get in a car. So he's like surrounded by news and SWAT, and like these people are pretending, like putting umbrellas up and like shining flashlights at the cops and everything. And while that whole distraction was going on, he was on a plane to like Cuba or something.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah, so
his escape.
So I think like, I mean, I know obviously you brought it up in the question to talk about it, but I think there's nothing to talk about. Like, P. Diddy's done for. We're never going to see him again. He's in some non-jurisdicted country where he's not going to get arrested. And,
that's so crazy. I think like, so I was listening to, like I mentioned him before, PBD. He was talking to like a few other people about like how P. Diddy, like there's no way that like P. Diddy was the only person that was like engaging in, like,
for sure. Yeah.
So they were saying that in his situation, there was likely people that were older than him that were like getting him to do like these things when he was younger, and then like he basically like passed it on to like the next And it's just like this cycle of, like you said before, like sin that like keeps getting passed on to the next generation. The next generation is like all.
So from what I understand of the investigation, they knew, like, obviously they didn't want him to get away, but they knew he was probably going to get away because, like,
that's
when you have that much money, you can buy another life somewhere.
Yeah.
And so their immediate thing was like, raid his house and just find names. Like, we just need names of other people that could be involved in this.
Yeah.
And now, like, we're never gonna hear about it, but they're probably investigating whoever else was involved, or whoever else P. Diddy had connections with. And I mean, if those people don't like get out of the U.S., we might hear a story about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
And dude, I think like this, because they're saying like this is another like case of child sex trafficking. That's like another, maybe not to the same level, but this could be like another level of an Epstein level case.
Yeah.
Low key.
I think it might even be beyond an Epstein level case because, like, I don't know how people didn't see the Epstein thing. Like, come on, this dude's got his own island and, like, he's kind of a creep in real life if you've ever seen videos of him. But, like, this is, like, clearly very well covered up and, like, very well hidden. And you can hear celebrities talking about it all the time. Like, they'll be like,
at Diddy's party.
Yeah,
like,
at Diddy's party or whatever. Or you'll hear them say, like, now that all this stuff is coming out, like, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, I fully believe that this is true.
And I find it very interesting that almost everybody that, like, every celebrity that I've heard that's been around him, they're like, oh, don't go to, like, the 13th or 14th floor of whatever, like, building because that's where things get, like, freaky. You know what I mean? And, like, they have, like, an idea, but they don't really know. And I find that interesting that, like, almost all of them say the same thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, what are the odds that Diddy's the only person out there?
Yeah. And then
it's not likely.
Yeah, it comes down to, like, you're like a little bit famous right now and you start learning things like that, and it's like you don't want to come out and say anything because there's just people with more money and more fame than you that could just ruin your life.
Yeah, that's facts.
That's one of the biggest issues with, like, that Hollywood culture is nobody can speak their own mind.
Yeah, and plus, like, I know I've heard this a few times where they say, like, they'll get something on you. So, like, they might record you doing, like, a horrible act. Like, they'll intoxicate you, and then they'll record you, and then they'll be like, they'll have this to fall back on. Like, if you try to say something, oh, I have this video of you, like, doing this thing with, like, this young kid.
Yeah.
Or, like, I think back then, because homosexuality was, like, more frowned upon, I heard people say, like, they'll do that with, like, you kissing, like, another guy, or, like, you getting with another guy. Whereas, like, now I think it's less frowned upon, I think, except for Diddy. They call him the diddler now.
Really? That's
so crazy.
outrageous.
Like the Riddler. Like, it's not the laughing matter, but it's still kind of funny that they call him the diddler.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely an interesting thing, and I do like the theory that maybe that happened to him when he was younger, and now he's trying to, like, replicate it because, I mean, that's like a lot like what you hear about with, like, bullying. Like, why is this guy bullying me? Well, it's because maybe he's not getting all the love at home. Yeah. And he wants to project that on somebody else, you know. It's similar to that, you know.
It's similar with, like, abuse.
Yeah.
Like, people that are abused are more likely to abuse others.
Yeah.
I don't have, like, the stats to prove that, but I've, like, that's a fact. Like, I know people say that all the time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he was in, like, a similar situation as, like, Usher when he was younger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe, like, an older person in Hollywood was doing the same thing to him. But yeah, I think that's crazy. Did you watch the Quiet on Set documentary?
I did not.
I still haven't gotten around to it either, but I think, like, that situation is also really crazy too.
What was that one about?
That's the one about, like, Dan Schneider, the person that was, like, behind Nickelodeon, and he was, I don't know if you heard about, like, what's that girl's name? Sam from like Sam and Cat, or, like, Sam from iCarly. She wrote a book basically about it, and not about it, but like her experience with like Dan Schneider and like how he was like creepy and he would have them do like certain things. But like if you watch like iCarly or like Sam and Cat, there's scenes where like they have these little kids in like swimsuits, or like having their feet out, like wiggling their toes, and it's like weird. Like if you go back and watch it, it's really weird.
Yeah.
But now like it finally makes sense because the person that was behind it, Dan Schneider, was a creep, and he was doing like all this weird stuff. It's low key, it's not on the same level as like what Diddy did, but it's definitely like messed up what he did.
He was up to some weird stuff. For sure.
Yeah, no. I still haven't watched the documentary, but I've heard about like some of the things that happened in it, and that guy was like, it's crazy he got away with it for so long.
Stuff like that is kind of like feeds into that ignorance is bliss idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I kind of wish I never knew that stuff like this happened.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'd be a lot less angry in general, you know, because it's like, how are we letting people get away with this?
Yeah.
But
no, that's definitely facts. I don't understand how they get away with it for so long and so many people know about it.
Yeah.
Like you said with Diddy, like even Cat Williams was talking about it. Like, oh, what did he say? He said something like, I'm not homosexual, but like if you go to Diddy's parties, and then he kind of hints at it. And this was before like the allegations with Diddy even came out.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And people were always talking about it.
I saw like a bunch of videos. I saw like a compilation of like celebrities like pulling kids away from Diddy or something. Like I forget who it was, but like there was this little kid like meeting celebrities, and then Diddy walks over, and then like another celebrity like turns the kid around and sends him out. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's like you see stuff like that and you're like, okay, they gotta know.
You know the one with like Justin Bieber when
he
was talking
when
to
that whole interview is eerie.
Yeah, it is so like he's like, why don't you come to my house anymore? Did you know that he like
they had like a 24-hour sleepover or whatever?
Yeah,
that's.
Did you know that he adopted him at one point too?
Really?
I think it was Bieber, but it could have been Usher. I'm not sure which one, but I heard he adopted him for like, was it like 2 weeks or something? He was telling the parents that like, oh, this is gonna be like the best time of his life, and he's gonna experience all of this, and it's just like, bro, that is so messed up.
That's freaky for sure.
That is so creepy. But yeah, no, I could definitely imagine like certain celebrities being like, nah, don't get anywhere near him.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to like the Michael Jackson thing, like having those kids over to his little like La La Land or whatever.
Yeah, no, that one's messed up too. I don't know. I think he's like, I don't know if he's at the same level as Diddy, but it was definitely similar.
Yeah, I mean, there's an amount of like sympathy to be had, because if you think about his past, like he never got to have friends when he was growing up.
Yeah, he was never like a normal kid.
Yeah, he never experienced like that childhood bliss. So like maybe he was just recreating that experience, and like that's not illegal, you know.
Yeah,
it's just weird.
Yeah,
but then there's also the chance that he was doing like weird stuff with kids. But like we'll never know, you know. It's never gonna come out.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it's because with him, it could have been the same thing. Like, it could have been passed down to him. Like I think you kind of hinted at that, but it's possible that, like, there were other people in Hollywood that were, like, doing weird things with him, too. Yeah. So I think that's pretty wild. We basically covered almost everything I wanted to talk about. Let's do, like, 1 or 2 more questions just to wrap things up. I want to ask, what do you think? I know, like, from when I've talked to you, you're pretty into like the music scene. So what did you think of like the Kendrick and Drake beef that's going on, if you're paying attention to it?
I mean, it's like the dumbest thing in the world. I actually think it's the dumbest thing in the world. I listened to like Drake's like diss was pretty funny. Like I heard the diss on the track and I was like, oh, that's pretty funny, bro.
Yeah.
And then like Kendrick tried to come back and just made the worst like 7 bars I've ever heard in my life, and I was like, bro, like I've heard Kendrick rap, and like he's a good rapper and like a really good artist, and it's like there's no way he listened back to that and was like, yeah, this shit is fire, bro. Like,
have you heard like the people that analyze it in depth though?
I've not, no.
Yeah, dude, if you look at that, it's pretty crazy. Like, he actually gets into some crazy shit because he's like, he's very like poetic, so you don't catch it like the first time.
Yeah.
And if you look at like the beginning and the end, it's like everything kind of falls together. Like, if you're just listening to it, it doesn't really make sense. But if you look at it deeper, it's like, whoa, there's like triple entendres in here. There's like double entendres.
I mean, it's just like, it's rappers getting mad at each other happens all the time. Like, it happened with Eminem and Tyler the Creator.
Yeah.
Like, Eminem then like called him an F slur in his song.
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, yo, Eminem, that's not cool, bro. Like, you can't do that. And then Eminem came out and he was like, you know what, like, the beef was never really that deep, honestly. Like, we were just having fun, like, doing diss tracks and stuff. And I mean, like, I think that's what it is on the surface level, is like, they're just being rappers doing rapper stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
What percentage of beefs do you think is just for like clout?
I would say like, in terms of like YouTube creators, like 100% of beefs are just for clout. But like, when it comes to rappers, I mean, they're human too, you know? They're gonna get mad at each other and do some stuff like that, and like, clout just comes with it. So I can't put a number on it, but I feel like a good amount of them are real for sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I've seen like, you know, like NBA YoungBoy's beef with Lil Durk a few years ago. That one was like insane, and you could tell that was real.
Yeah.
And I think anyone that has to do with like the drill scene, those ones are usually real.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at like,
I mean, if you look at the drill scene, I mean, those are like people who've actually like killed people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like,
or at least had,
or at least are in a gang or something.
Yeah. And so like, I could definitely see how those ones are real, but like, on the other side, like, I know I've seen earlier this year, it was Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj. I don't know if you saw that, but that one was low-key so crazy. I don't think I've ever seen two female rappers like make diss tracks to each other.
They were dissing on each other?
Yeah, it was crazy, dude.
I gotta listen to that. That's
and
funny.
like, if you listen to Megan Thee Stallion's one, it's like, damn, she's really calling her out. Like, this is crazy. And it low-key seems like she went all out on that.
Yeah.
And then if you look into Nicki Minaj's, you can tell she's like holding back.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I could tell them about this. You don't want...
Yeah.
And she's like, by the end of the song, she's literally just like whispering. And it's so eerie. It's so creepy, because she's like, I could tell them about your mom. I could tell them about this. You don't want me to do that. Don't
scary,
mess with me. Don't mess with me. I know too much.
I wouldn't be messing with her.
That's what's crazy, is because like you look at like all the male artists, and then you think about like the female artists. Yeah, it's similar to like high school. They got like all the drama. They got all the gossip. They got all the tea.
I mean, I like those like hidden disses, like when Kanye did that, like, scoop-dee-whoop-dee.
Yeah,
you know, and
that one was so funny.
That's because, you know why he did that, right?
Yeah, it's because, like...
Drake dropped his song and he wanted to steal the flow.
Yeah.
So, he stole Drake's flow and just made, like, the most nonsense bars in the world.
That one was
so
funny.
I'm a huge Tyler, the Creator fan, and I really like, the year Igor came out, DJ Khaled had been, like, I don't even know how many consecutive, like, #1 boards he won, but he was, like, the top of the show every time, and Tyler was like, I'm coming for that #1 spot. So DJ Khaled, like, got every single famous person on his album, and like there were like 17 songs, and they were all like produced immaculately and perfect, and like Tyler just dropped Igor, and it just outran DJ Khaled.
Damn, dude, that's a crazy story.
Streams. I mean, I love that story. If you watch Tyler talk about it, I don't know if DJ Khaled like cares anymore, because like he was really upset about it at the time. Like,
he's a meme now, low key. Yeah. Like, I don't know if he's doing this on purpose, but like I cannot take him seriously no more. Bro's like talking about how he's asparagus and shit. Like, look at me, toe to head to toe. Call me asparagus.
Those were some funny clips. That was like last summer when he was dropping all of that. Let's go
Yeah.
golfing. Let's go swimming.
Life is Roblox.
Yeah.
Dude, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the stuff
Why
that he
is he-
says. He's a funny dude.
This guy makes insane music, and he's talking like a NPC.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the biggest NPC on TikTok. Dude, it's crazy.
They shouldn't have given him access to Instagram Reels.
Yeah, no, for real. For real.
That was his downfall.
Yeah. So I want to end this with like any advice you have to like other people. That's like life advice or any advice you got.
I would say like the most important piece of advice I ever got was just like live your own and just don't listen or don't care about what other people say about you. And once I started living by that, I witnessed the biggest increase of quality of life I'd ever experienced in my life. So I think just like be yourself, don't put on a mask in front of anybody, and just have fun. I mean, that's what, you only have so much time on the earth, you know, make it yours.
Yeah. No, that's definitely valid. I think a lot of people get so hung up on like what they come off as, or like what other people think of them, and it doesn't get them anywhere because they have to like build themselves up, not like build the version of themselves that other people like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you can only hold that act for so long until you're gonna snap. You know.
Yeah, and that's not healthy. That's not a healthy lifestyle to live. You have to be natural. Yeah, it's unnatural to be unnatural.
Yeah, and then you're not around friends that don't like the real you. You know.
Yeah.
You're around people that like you for who you are, and you can say whatever you want and do whatever you want, and they're gonna be right there with you.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's real. That's what that's what you should want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap things up. I wanna just do a quick summary. We talked about like your plans for the summer, growing up in the suburbs. You said Downers Grove, right?
Yeah,
Downers Grove. High school years a little bit, and then choosing Creighton. We got into like your future a little bit. Like I think we just straight up just went from that into like TikTok, but I could be tripping. I don't know how we did that. TikTok, freedom of speech, P. Diddy, Quiet on Set, Drake, Kendrick, and then just like your advice for people. So I want to thank you for getting on. Like I learned a lot about you. I mean, I know we've talked a few times in the past.
Yeah.
And I definitely learned a lot about you. We definitely got into like a lot of really interesting conversation about whether it's like alcohol, weed, drugs, and going into like the TikTok political side, talking about like government and stuff. I think that stuff was like really important. Really, like a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah.
Especially like this year.
Yeah, I feel like one of the biggest points that's made is like, or that we made today, is like, you know, find your own beliefs. Don't bandwagon off what other people are believing or what you're seeing on the internet. You know, you got to find your own truth, and I think more people should hear that for sure.
Yeah. Don't be a sheep, y'all.
Yeah.
Be a sheep. So I want to thank you for getting on, bro.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Goal Swole Podcast. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to drop a like. And if you plan on listening to any future episodes, make sure to subscribe and click that notification button.